Hey people, it's me again. So anyways, one of the things that I talk about a lot is how sometimes there are certain songs that I use as kind of a theme of some sort, but it was a way for me to have a mean of catharsis when it comes to certain things that I was going through at that point. You know, I mean, to take example of that song, I Walk Alone by Daria, who is the former singer of Nightwish. And the song was her expressing independence from the group when all the stuff had caused problems with the group there, when it was her husband and clashing with the band and all this sort of stuff, and choosing to leave because she wanted to explore other opportunities as far as that goes, and part of it was also kind of expressing regret as far as leaving a relationship and all that. In the same way, that other song, what was it called again? Goodbye to You by Michelle Branch. It was kind of like the same meaning there, where she's leaving a relationship, but still expresses regret as far as leaving, but she still cares about that person, but is leaving because the other person, would not let the relationship go any further than she wanted it to go. That sort of thing. And in some ways, I think I regret leaving relationships at some point or another, whether it was leaving adult transition, leaving like some of the old friends or whatever it was, at a certain point in time, or leaving any of my exes at some point or another, whether if it was Ricky or Raul, and even any of the other ones there. That I always felt like there was always such problems with certain people there, but the main thing here is that I felt like I needed to kind of communicate better with it, because what if I had to speak a little bit harder, or for them to listen harder? That was always been the thing that it has boiled down in some ways. And a lot of times I think I had gotten a little bit blunt about the problems with adult transition, where at one point where I had said to one of the facilitators that there shouldn't be an adult transition there if they couldn't get their act together and realize what was really wrong with me at that point, when the whole thing was simple, that I just needed more space and freedom to roam around and all of that, and I just did not like being kept on a tight leash like that, and that one way or another they were gonna loosen the reins, or I was gonna throw them off my back, So it was either like they were gonna have to do that willingly, or I was gonna do it by force. And I didn't really want to force things down on people. And it was the case with like that one doctor I kind of mentioned many times on here, that he would either have to concede that I didn't really need Paxil and Zoloft or whatever, or I was going to force it out of him, and I didn't. And it's the same thing as it was before. I did not want to do that. And it was like the case with my parents at that point, when they got in between any of my boyfriends or whatever, that I needed to figure those guys out on my own, because they were not going to always be around for me to figure out, and I needed to figure things out on my own. And that either that they were going to let me do that, or I'm just going to force it out of them. And I just didn't really want to do that, you know. I mean, there are many instances where if I didn't have any kind of familial ties to my parents or my brothers or any other relatives that I had problems with or whatever, that sometimes I wish I could just walk away from them, but I can't, because there's just some familial ties to them. When it comes to people that weren't related, you know, to me or whatever, I had that option to walk out, you know, as much as it dismayed certain people at that time. But honestly, there are many instances that I probably should have hold it out, and there are other times where I should just walked away a lot quicker at that point, where if I realized that no matter what it was going to do, it was not going to improve, and that I had tried everything on that point. You know, but then if the whole problem was basically on their end in some ways, and then they weren't doing half of the legwork or whatever it was, you know, that I already had done the legwork, all this, and then I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, you know, and that I probably should have been a little bit more patient with people, but a lot of times there were certain people that just weren't patient with me, you know, and sometimes I felt like it was better for me to walk away from that relationship because of that, because I don't really need to contend with such people like that. You know, if all they're gonna do is just drain me emotionally, for what? Just so they can control me or try to bend me to their will and all that. I don't go around trying to drain people emotionally just so I can control them to my will and all that. I don't want that from anyone, for that matter. And if they're going to be that sort of way, then they can just leave. Yeah. And there's so many times where I think I probably should have just said that to certain people at that point, because especially if I had that option to go away, to look elsewhere at that point, I think I would have. There are many times where I had problems with certain teachers, you know, at that time in high school there, that I was contemplating switching schools because I couldn't stand being in that one teacher's class anymore, you know. But it took a long time for that one teacher to realize that he had to do the other half of the legwork, that I had already done my half of that legwork or whatever, and that he needed to do the other part, you know, and honestly, that was what was wrong with that teacher there, you know. I think he demanded that respect or whatever when it was really earned with me, and that he had to respect me as a person before he can get that respect from me, you know. And it wasn't until like the last semester of high school where he finally had earned my respect, you know, as far as that goes. But honestly, I could go on and on about this sort of thing, you know, but it's going to be about like 10 minutes of me like ranting and railing of all that. So anyways, talk to you guys later.